Good morning. Thank you guys so much for having us this morning and allowing us to be up here and speak. Sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking to be up here in front of all these people, but just with how much you guys have greeted us and welcomed us, I don't know about y'all, but I don't feel that nervous anymore. Kind of feel like we're in front of family. So thank y'all for giving us the whole service and just allowing us to tell you about what God's doing in our life. We are from Cameron Boys Camp, and Cameron Boys Camp is in Cameron, North Carolina, and we have over 902 acres. So for these guys, for a 14, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, that's a big playground. These guys really enjoy that. But behind me, this is the Ranger group, and right now this is the only group that we have at camp. We are licensed to have about 3 groups at camp, but we need more chiefs. So if you guys could be praying for that, that's what's keeping us from serving more people at camp. But behind me we have Killian, we have Jonathan, we have Jaden, we have Chief Zach, which is one of the counselors in the group. His counterpart is Chief Nate. And Chief Nate, he used to be a firefighter. He has been at camp for about 6 months, Chief. And he's fitting right in, and he's going for it, but he has 2 days off right now, so we figured we'd give him a break. And we have Noah, Aiden, and Noah. And we also have another chief at camp. His name is Chief Caleb. And he is just about done with his training, and he's almost ready to join the group. So we're excited for that. Camp is hard. It's not a summer camp. It's a year-round camp. And it's broken down into sessions. And at camp, we stay there for about 4 to 6 weeks at a time, and then we go home for about 5 days. It's difficult to be at camp. It's difficult to be away from your family, but these guys are committed to the program and committed to working on their goals, and it's not a walk in the park. A lot of these guys, their families, their parents are divorced, or they have experienced neglect or trauma or abandonment as a kid, and they're really working. They're trying to work through those issues. And at camp, we get the opportunity to find the Lord and to work close to counselors and chiefs that can help lead us there. So that's what camp is all about. We're going to share with you guys a lot of cool things that we do. But honestly, the main thing that we do is heart work at camp. And it's really possible through churches like you. So yeah, thank you all for having us. And we're going to sing some songs, do some testimonies. But before we get into any of that, I'm going to just dedicate this time to the Lord, and then we'll get started. Pray with me. Heavenly Father, thank you so much, God, for allowing us to get to Fuquay-Varina safely. And God, just thank you for how welcoming this church is and friendly. And I can just feel your spirit moving, God. And thank you for the guys behind me, Lord, and their commitment to you and just commitment to do hard things. Lord, I pray that you give them your peace. I pray that you give them the words to speak and that they speak from their hearts. And I just pray that we have a great time this morning and that we just dedicate all of it to you, Lord, and allow your Holy Spirit to be at work. In your name we pray, amen. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Amazing Grace and the song Jesus Loves Me. So we do things a little bit different at camp. So we're going to sing both of those songs camp style. And if you can start to pick up on it, you can join us and sing with us. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound, saved a wretch like me one day. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Blind, but now I see. Singing na 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 na. You guys sound pretty good. Good job with that. Jaden, how long have you been at camp?
I've been at camp for about 7 months now.
And Jaden, actually, I was telling your pastor that we have an event twice a year. It's called Friends of Children. And it's a time where we have lots of volunteers come to the camp and help us clean up the property. And you never want a tropical storm, but to have a work day after a tropical storm works out pretty good. And Jaden and his church came to one of our Friends of Children, really liked the program, and then lives right down the road and ended up joining the program. And Jaden loves camp, and is camp always easy?
Not at all.
It can be very challenging, but you haven't given up. And we have kind of a different way of how we start our day at camp. And I'd imagine it was probably a little bit different than the way you started your day. So Jaden, camp is this complex, fun idea, but it's kind of hard to understand. Could you talk to us a little bit about the morning routines, some of the plans, some of the way that we eat our meals throughout the week, then that important part in the middle of the day and the important part at the end of the day that we do? And I can help you anytime you need.
Thank you. So we start our day off at about 6:30 in the morning. We will wake up and make our beds, get dressed, and we sleep in tents outside. But we will sweep those out, make sure our beds are made nicely. So if we have a rough day, we can just go back to a neat bed made nicely so we can just sleep peacefully and not have to worry about anything after that. And then after we get up in the morning, we will then go say goals and do team jobs. Team jobs is where we pretty much rake our trails, clean off tents, knock off our tarps so no pine straw just stays on there and collects on it, no water. We get all the stuff off of it. We clean up as much as we can, which is pretty much everything. And we all do it as a group because group work is one of the number one things at camp, along with relationships, because relationships are important. And after we do, or before we even do team jobs, we'll say goals, because everyone at camp has goals. Chiefs, supervisors, our cooks have goals, because we all have stuff we need to work on. And with those goals, we just, actually, someone else is going to share about that. So I will let them do that. But so after we do team jobs, we will then go eat breakfast. Depending on the day, we eat at Chuck Wagon, which is pretty much our dining hall, 5 days of the week, which is every day but Wednesday and Thursday. Those 2 days we cook for ourselves so our cooks can have some days off, because they work hard making us 3 meals a day, 5 days a week. We figured we'd let them have a day off every once in a while. But we will go eat breakfast, and after that we will do our morning plan. It could be anything from fishing, rambling, working on the tent, cutting trees down. It could be anything we want, whatever our wants are or needs, because we do both at camp. We do needs and wants. We prioritize needs, but wants are sometimes needs. And after we do that, we will then go eat lunch, have a good lunch, because our cooks are great. After we eat lunch, we will then go back down to campsite and do something we call siesta, which is like an afternoon nap, so you can reflect on what's been going on for the day, get some rest, and get ready for the remainder of your day. I personally like to read my Bible during siesta, just so I can get familiar with God's Word more and more and grow closer to Him and grow our relationship. But after siesta, we will then go do our afternoon plan, which is normally a more active one than it is in the evening. So normally we will, depending on what we have to do, we will either cut down trees or go play some games and just have fun, let our energy out. And then after we do our afternoon plan, we will go take showers, because we're in the woods. It's kind of dirty. It's messy. But after we do that, we will then go eat an amazing dinner again. And then after dinner, we will then go do our evening plan, which is a bit shorter than the afternoon one, seeing as it's the end of the day. We need to wind down, so it'll be a settled one. We'll do something like crafts, settled group games, or maybe we can just talk out about some things that we need to. And after our afternoon plan, we will then go do something we call powwow, which is where we evaluate the day, see everything that was good about the day, see how the day went, what we could improve on, what were some highlights. It's pretty much where we make sure we're all settled out about the day, so we can go down to bed well and not have any thoughts about anything, not be mad at people. Just it's a time to talk out your feelings and how you're feeling. And after that, we'll then go down to bed and everything starts over again.
That's right. Jaden, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, at camp, it's a full day, what we do. You explained that pretty well, but ending the day well is really important. A lot of these guys, they're used to ending the day with slam doors or yelling matches, and there's just a lot of tension that can bleed over into the next day. It's really important that we're at peace with each other before we start the next day and the sun doesn't go down on our anger. So yeah, camp is very biblically based. And I hope you heard what he said about the beginning of the day too. Routines are very important. Before we come to camp, we definitely lack a routine. We lack being responsible. And that's something that we're trying to teach at camp. And not only just making a bed or raking a trail, but also whatever we do, we want to bring a camper to more of the knowledge of God. So whatever we do, we want to do with a good attitude. And Jaden, you're exactly right. Camp is really nothing without relationships. If we were to boil camp down to one thing, it's building relationships with each other and doing things together as a group instead of doing our own thing. And I do agree with Jaden. I think we have the best cooks in Moore County. So if you guys ever want a taste of that, you guys should come out, and we'd love to have you. Jaden, thanks for sharing that. I'm going to invite another camper up here, and he's a little nervous, but I think he's going to do a good job. Aiden, can you come up here? One thing that Jaden said that we do at camp is fishing, and we had a competition of that recently, didn't we? And Aiden, do you like to fish?
I love to fish.
And Aiden had a goal when he first came to camp. Aiden, what was your goal?
To beat you in fishing.
He wanted to beat me in the fishing contest, and he smoked me. He kicked my tail. And he's a good fisherman. And we have competitions all the time. What are some other competitions we have at camp?
We got a wood chopping contest. I don't know what else.
We have a wood chopping contest. What else, guys? A craft contest, fishing contest. I think a chili cook-off. We have a chili cook-off as well. But he was determined, and he met his goal. And the fishing contest is for the whole session. And the last day of the session we call party night. It's kind of our celebration of what we've accomplished during the session at camp. And something particular happened on that day. Can you kind of tell us the story of what happened on party night?
So on party night, it was like the afternoon, and I was catching a couple of fish. I was doing some brim fishing, and then I decided to throw out some live bait. And I waited about 3 or 4 minutes, and my rod started moving. I was like, okay, I got some. When I reeled it in, it was a 5-pound bass. And so, now we went to go take it to a guy to mount it, and it's really cool.
Yeah, he not only caught the most fish, he caught the biggest fish. And we wanted to celebrate that and honor that, so we took it to his hometown, got it mounted, and that place was pretty neat that we went to. This guy not only mounted fish, but bear and duck and all sorts of stuff. But we contacted the guy the other day, and he's halfway through mounting it. So we're pretty excited about the finished product, and we should send you a picture once we have it. That'd be neat. But Aiden, thanks for sharing that. One other thing that we do at camp is we build tents, and that's a pretty remarkable thing to do as a teenager. And I want Jonathan and Chief Zach to come up here and kind of talk through that process and maybe some of the tents that we've built recently.
Yeah, Chief Jacob's right. Tent building is a big deal at camp because without it, we are sleeping on pine straw. It's not a good deal. So my friend Jonathan's going to tell you how we take care of one of our most important physical acts at camp.
So pretty much the whole process of building our tents is we dream it and come together. We talk about how big and how wide we want it to be, which is our graphs. And it comes in 4 views: front view, side view, top view, and interior. And after that, we figure out how much poles we need to cut down for our tent. And it can take up to about a month sometimes. Sometimes it took 3 months, but that was because like a bunch of stuff was happening that session. But after that, we go and saw down the trees, measure them, and skin them, and we dismantle the other tent and use it for firewood and stuff like that.
Jonathan, what are some of the different kinds of poles we use for tent building?
It's mainly like what type?
Biggest to smallest.
Oh, I would say about 10-foot max to 1 foot.
Jonathan's right. Some of the poles can range from a bunch of different sizes. We'll have uprights that are holding the tent up. We'll have ridge poles going across. We'll even have some rafters to support the tarps for our roofing, the same tarps that Jaden was talking about that we take care of every morning. So we put into these tents when they first go up, but we continue to work with them even as they're meeting our need. So that helps them last longer for us. Let's see. Jonathan, after we saw down our poles, what does the process look like to assemble our tent?
So pretty much we like make the spacing for it with like bull rakes and stuff like that, and then we get postal diggers and we dig out the holes what we want to put it in.
If Jonathan's right, first we'll square the tent. We got to dig in the uprights so that we can set the four corners, kind of like setting your cornerstone so you know where everything's starting from. Then we build it from the ground up. It'd be kind of difficult to start with the rafters when there's nothing to support them. So we gotta keep it going. You have your uprights, ridge poles, rafters, and then your side rails to kind of offer some sideways support. And then we'll throw on our tarp. Some of the tents are going to be built on platforms that are pre-built, so they'll just be with these wooden floors. But other times we get really creative with some bricking. With one of our last tents that we built, we even built a porch. And the whole group got to put into that, and it was for my co-chiefs and I, so we're extra thankful for these guys because they work hard for us, and we work with them too, so we're together in that. Let's see, bricking, porches. The cook tent that Jonathan was talking about, it took a long time because of the detail that these guys put into it, from different prepping tables, a lot of shelving. We built like a floating utensil rack, so it really is kind of a kitchen that you might have in your own house, but it's really primitive, rustic, and it meets all our needs and then some. So we really try to take care of it. But Jonathan, great job, man.
These guys may be selling themselves a little short. I don't know if you heard them. They cut down trees themselves in the woods, haul them to their campsite, and build their own campsite. So I don't know how many tents we have in campsite, Noah, but it's got to be like 17 or 18. And every single tent in their campsite, these guys built. And talk about personal responsibility. And I think that's kind of the basic part of building a home, doing it yourself with your hands. But we're also trying to do that with our families. We're trying to build a good home with our families. So we try to teach the truth in the physical sense, and then go to the mental sense of it, and then the spiritual sense. That's really what we're doing at camp. And this is our school. Them building their tents, it's their carpentry class. Right now, what are you guys studying? They're studying metalworking, and they're going to make knives at a local knife maker shop in Aberdeen. And they went to Spartan Blades in Southern Pines. So what we say at camp is you have not because you ask not. Sometimes it's just a phone call away, and someone can get with us and allow us to go on a day trip with them. I think one of the welders that made a lot of the metal work for Pirates of the Caribbean, we contacted him, and he allowed us to make some metal stuff with him. So at camp, a lot of dreams can come true by just working together and asking. But Jonathan's right. Tents are a big part of camp, and it's pretty cool to be able to build your own fort in your campsite. And it's probably hard to picture. I heard a lot about media and slideshows. We probably should have had a slideshow to show you guys a picture of these tents because it's a pretty big deal. It's almost a permanent structure. They last, how long do they last normally? 3 to 4 years? So it's a pretty good accomplishment when they build that. And in school, it's pretty good if you get a 99 on a test, but if you build a tent 99% of the way, someone's going to get wet. And it's the truth. It really is important that at camp we do things 100% of the way and that we do it unto the Lord. Cool. Jonathan, thanks for sharing about that. We're going to sing a song called Campin' Boy, and a lot of these lyrics are not true, but they are fun. So we'll sing this song, and then we'll talk a little bit about goals with Noah. Your backpack, drive me like a Jeep. You know I'm from the country 'cause I go wood in my sleep. I'm a camping boy, I'm a camping boy. You can look at me and see, I'm a camping boy. I can outrun a she-bear, I can digest cellophane. Cut down a tree in a minute flash, start a fire in the rain. I'm a camping boy, I'm a camping boy. You can look at me and see, I'm a camping boy. You can have all your luxuries, you can be so civilized. I would rather rough it, I would rather improvise. I'm a camping boy, I'm a camping boy. You can look at me and see, I'm a camping boy. I'm addicted to wood smoke, immune to mosquito bites. I never take a shower 'cause my clothes are watertight. I'm a camping boy, I'm a camping boy. You can look at me and see, I'm a camping boy. You can look at me and see, I'm a camping boy. Before we came to church this morning, Jaden wanted me to let you know that we do take showers at camp. That's just a lyric that we sing. We have goals at camp. Who all has goals at camp, Noah?
Everybody, really. Chief Drew, our director, has goals. I've got goals. Everybody in the group has goals. You've got goals, Chief. Sometimes the entire group has goals, like when we go on trips.
Why do you think goals are important?
I think goals are important mainly from experience, if I'm being honest. A lot of times, before camp, I didn't know where I was going to go. Like, in life, really. I didn't have a plan for my life. I didn't have a plan for the day. I didn't have a plan for the month or the school year. I didn't really care. So at camp, when we were able to establish what we want as an end goal, maybe for the day, for the week, and in certain places, 6 months, it really helps organize what life is going to look like. And it also supports us kind of emotionally in a way, because if we ever forget like what we want to do, we can always kind of lean back on that, and we have a plan, and we can trust God in that it will work out.
Yeah, we're travelers on a journey, right? Yes. Or we're campers on a journey. And if we're not careful with our attitude or some of our feelings, we can kind of get off track a little bit. It's important that when we have those goals, that they keep us to where we want to go, that we're deliberate and we're doing the right thing on purpose. What's a goal that you have, and how do you feel like that's helped you and your family so far at camp?
Yeah, Chief. So I think my third goal is I will better myself as a person by managing my emotions and using good coping skills such as exercising, journaling, whittling, and getting better at different skills. So for me, before camp, I didn't use coping mechanisms, not anything that helped me really. Substances mainly were the biggest thing that I went to. But now at camp, when I actually have a chance to try new things, I can latch on to certain things, and if I'm ever stressed or something, I can maybe I can read a book, or I can just talk with my group and say, group, I'm really frustrated right now, and I need your help, because sometimes you don't get to do that. And honestly, it's been a weight off of my shoulders, just being able to communicate what I'm feeling when I'm feeling it, because it is a really hard thing to do sometimes, because in life you don't often want to say what you're feeling or what you're thinking. You just want others to leave you alone so that you can try to pull yourself together, but that's not how life works.
Exactly right. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, who likes admitting that they're wrong or admitting that they're struggling? It's a difficult thing to do, and Noah's exactly right. When we say our goals in the morning, we say our goals in front of everyone, and it's important that our whole group knows the other person's goals, because if they're getting off track or doing the wrong thing, we don't poke at them, but we can, in a friendly way, encourage them that, hey, you have a goal about this. We know that you really want to do this. Stay on the right track. Stay committed. So our goals, they really are like guardrails for our life. And Noah is really working on his goals. Are you perfect? None of us are. But I really see Noah's heart changing at camp and him pursuing the Lord and asking really hard questions that sometimes Chief Zach and I don't know the answer to, but we've got to look in the Bible and find it. But you've been doing a really good job, and you've been committed at camp. Now, I've been proud of you. Thanks. We're going to sing another song. It's called Good News. Then after that, we're going to talk about a really fun part of camp. But we'll sing Good News, and Jonathan, you and I can lead out, and the group can echo. There's a long white robe in heaven, I know.
There's a long white robe in heaven, I know.
There's a long white robe in heaven, I know.
And I don't want it to leave me behind.
Good news.
Good news, chariots are coming.
Good news.
Good news, chariots are coming. Good news, chariots are coming. And I don't want it to leave me behind.
There's a starry crown in heaven, I know.
There's a starry crown in heaven, I know.
There's a starry crown in heaven, I know.
And I don't want it to leave me behind.
Good news.
Good news, chariots are coming.
Good news.
Good news, chariots are coming. Good news, chariots are coming. And I don't want it to leave me behind.
There's a mansion built in heaven for me.
There's a mansion built in heaven for me.
There's a mansion built in heaven for me.
And I don't want it to leave me behind.
Good news.
Good news, chariots are coming.
Good news.
Good news, chariots are coming. Good news, chariots are coming. And I don't want it to leave me behind. And I don't want it to leave me behind.
Good singing, gentlemen. We are going to get Noah Brahm and Chief Zach up here, and I don't know what camp would be without adventures. So they're going to talk about little adventures we have at camp, then some big adventures we have at camp. So I'm going to turn it over to y'all.
Chief's right. Y'all have been hearing about the full days that we have at camp and all of the things we put on our plate because it's what helps us grow as young men. But you got to shake things up a little bit. If you stay in the same place too long, it gets a little stale. We follow that in a daily principle when we're talking things through and we don't have the answer where we're standing, so the ground got stale. We got to move. There's a bigger principle to that. Sometimes you got to leave camp to go find the answers. And Noah Brahm's going to tell us what that process is to go find adventures and growth.
Like Chief Jacob said earlier, we have 900 acres at camp, and there's a lot we can do there. But sometimes we just need to have a little bit of a change of pace. We can go on day trips. We're about to go on Thursday, actually, for our session team. We can take day trips, but sometimes we even need to get away for longer than just a day. So we can take river trips. In August of last year, this last August, we went to the Green River in Kentucky. We intended to do a 27-day river trip in about like 200 and something miles. We only made it about 7 days before we were pulled off, just because we weren't really focused on the goals that Noah D was sharing about, and we really just needed to recalibrate ourselves. And so we came out of camp, and we have definitely grown as a group since then. We just went to Fair Play Camp School, another one of the boys' camps in our association. And we weren't perfect on that trip, but we definitely did a heck of a lot better than we did on the Green River. And I feel like that has helped us redeem ourselves from that.
No, Rom's right. When we pulled off the Green River, the group knew something was left undone. And since then, we've had a spirit of going on the comeback. We were watching a football game last night. We went to bed a little earlier, and then the team that was losing by a lot came back. And I feel like that's kind of epitomizing what our group is about. Even when we're down and out, we still have it within us and within following our God, Jesus Christ, to come back and from our struggle and our sin, and there's still redemption. So that's a big deal to us. No, Brum, what is it like for our group to, begin embarking on a trip? We have a thought, but what do we do with it?
Well, it takes a lot of planning. And there are some things that you might not think about that we need to plan. We need to plan all of the equipment that we would need. We need to plan out food for every meal, for every day of the trip. So think about it. If there's 3 meals in a day and you've got 20-something days in a trip, just say it's just 20. It's never 20, but say it's 20. That's 60 meals right there that you got to pack and carry around with you in dry boxes and canoes. So you need to make sure you have enough nutrients and everything because you're definitely burning a lot of calories. You have to pack all the equipment. You have to plan out exactly how many miles you're going to go each day. The different markers where you're going to stop every day. You need to plan out exactly how much gas you're going to need. And with how expensive gas is these days, and it's very fluctuating, so we don't really have a standard price for that. We have to do all the math ourselves for like gas going there and back and everything. And just, I think there's a couple of other things I'm missing too, but there's definitely a lot to it. It takes about a month.
Yeah, it's an intense process. We've kind of, when we present these ideas to our supervisors, Chief Jacob and the other staff, they come back to us saying, that's great. What's this going to look like in detail? And we are assembling essentially like a trip Bible. You know, you've got all kinds of chapters and verses that gets looked back over so that this trip can get approved. And it really shows if we want to go on a trip like this, they're going to say, sounds great. Show us that you want it. And then the group really, they own up to the challenge. And it really just, you don't have to wonder in your head, are they really ready to go on a trip like this? Because when they put forth the effort of putting these things together, it sets us up for success. And we have these plans in place, not just so everything goes perfect, but even when things go wrong, we can look back to these trip folders. We can look back to our scripture. We can look back to our group, rely on our routines, our goals. And it just allows us to be successful even when we're away from camp and we don't have all the familiar structure and routine. That's why trips are really valuable. Noah Brahm has talked a lot about canoe trips. It's also options for us to take hiking trips. We can take bus trips. Just really anything we can come up with. If we are willing to put in the effort and make some sense out of it instead of it just being a dream, we can go on it. And it's with the support of churches like you guys as well that sets us up for that. So we're very thankful. But yeah, the spirit of trips is important, and we plan to go on a lot more. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you all for sharing. Killian, you can come up. And before Killian gets started, like you heard, there are a lot of details that go into planning a trip, especially if they're going to go on a river trip. How fast does the river flow? Where are they going to take out? Where are they going to put in? How many miles do they want to canoe? Where can they have a campsite at? Sometimes they can cover all these details on a trip and things still go wrong. And that's exactly how it is in life sometimes. Sometimes we can do all the things right or have a plan or have a vision of how we want something to go, and God has other plans in store. So trips are really fun. Sometimes they're the best memories of these guys' life. But they've got to rely on the Lord while they're on a trip because some unexpected things happen. The canoe can flip over and they can lose a meal. Or they're tired of eating sardines and canned corn for days upon end. And sometimes a nice local guy will come and take interest in us and ask us what we're doing and ask us if we need anything. And sometimes, what do we say we need, Killian?
Ice cream.
And they'll give us ice cream and fresh fruit. And on a long trip where you've had canned food and crackers or dried food for a long time, ice cream and fresh fruit can just make all the difference in the world. So it's just really cool how God provides for us on trips. It's neat. Killian's going to give his testimony, and I'm going to have Chief Zach up here for that, just in case Killian needs any support. But we've talked a lot about the fun stuff that we do at camp, building the tents, going on the trips, cooking. But none of that matters if we're not changing our heart. And that's really what camp is all about, is making our heart of stone a heart of flesh and a heart that God can mold and use for his glory. And we've got a lot of hurt and a lot of tough stuff that we've gone through that keeps us resistant from that change. But Killian's going to give a testimony of how he's been molded to God's plan.
Good morning, church. My name is Killian. I'm 15 years old. Let me tell you my testimony and how I came to know Christ. I was born in 2008 in New Jersey. When I was only 3 years old, my mom was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. Shortly after, my parents split up, and my dad and I moved here to North Carolina for his work. I grew up used to only seeing my mom on my birthdays and other holidays. My dad moved on, and soon I had a new half-sister and my first stepmom. I felt frustrated that I couldn't see my real mom more often, and that she and my dad could never agree on anything. A few years later, my first stepmom left, and my dad started dating my current stepmom. I got to hang out with my stepbrother Jordan, who was around my age. At first, everything was fine. They would hang out over dinner and sometimes stay the night, but things changed when we all moved in together. My sister would stay on the weekends and go with her real mom during the week. I felt like my stepmom was filling my mother's role, and I didn't want to accept it. So we started to argue a lot. Things became really stressful at home, making it hard to focus at school. I started to get bad grades and not care about my life or my future. When I was 10 years old, my stepmom got pregnant with twins, and a year later, we got into a really bad fight. We both did some things we regret. Worried about raising babies in such a toxic environment, we all decided I should go live with my mom and spend more time with her as her health got worse. I moved back to New Jersey and unfortunately started a fight with my mom. She got too sick to work, and we had to live off of Social Security money during the pandemic. Doing school online ruined my work ethic, and staying inside all the time messed up my social skills. I continued to fight with my mom, and she got physically abusive. One night, DSS came to our house and took me all the way down to North Carolina with nothing but the clothes on my back. My mom got mad, and I never got a chance to apologize to her for being rude. A week later, I got a phone call that her cancer had finally caught up to her and that she had passed away. I got so mad and depressed that I tried to end my own life, but the Lord had other plans for me. My dad talked to me, and we realized that we needed more help. So on February 13th, 2023, I came to Cameron Boys Camp. It was here that I learned about the grace of God and who Jesus really is. Let me share 2 stories with you. The first is from Deuteronomy chapter 21, verses 18 through 21. If a man has a stubborn and rebellious son who will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and though they discipline him, will not listen to them, then his father and his mother shall take hold of him and bring him out to the elders of the city at the gate of the place where he lives. And they shall say to the elders of this city, "This is our son, and he is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard." Then all the men of the city shall stone him to death with stones. So you shall purge the evil from your midst, and all Israel shall hear and fear. This one hits pretty close to home for me. It reminds me that the wages of sin are death. However, let me read John chapter 8, verses 7 through 11. And as they continued to ask Jesus, he stood up and said to them, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her." And once more he bent down and wrote on the ground. But when they heard it, they went away one by one, beginning with the older ones, and Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. Jesus stood up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, Lord." And Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on sin no more." It was in September of last year that I reached the end of myself. I cried out to God, and he heard my prayer. I know that I'm not perfect, and I never will be, but I see Jesus working in my life and helping me with more than I'd ever thought possible. It's funny how God uses our past to form us into who we are meant to be. If none of my struggles had ever happened, I would have never come to camp and would have never came to know the Lord. Thank you for listening.
Killian, thanks for sharing that and being so vulnerable. And I think that's really when change begins, is instead of us trying to control things our own way, surrendering it over to the Lord and allowing him to have his way with it. Because he can turn the worst things into good. Killian, great job. We're going to sing I'll Fly Away, then I'll let you know what's next.
Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away in the morning when I die. Hallelujah, by and by. I'll fly away. Just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away to a home where joy shall never end. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away in the morning when I die. Hallelujah, by and by. I'll fly away.
Like I said before, the campers have got to be pretty brave to be at camp, but I think the Chiefs have to be pretty brave as well. And you got to be a little crazy to work at camp, especially in the woods 24/7, 5 days a week, with a bunch of teenagers, with no phone or no social media or anything like that. And being at camp as a chief, it's a 2-year commitment, and it's not a job you really have to be called to camp. And Chief Zach has definitely been called to camp, so has his counterparts, Chief Nate and Chief Caleb. But Chief Zach has a pretty cool story, and he's just going to share with you what it means to be a chief and what it's like to be a chief in the woods at Cameron Boys Camp.
Thanks, Chief. Yeah, coming to camp it's one of the biggest decisions I've made in my life, and I know that it's for the good, although some days it may not feel that way. But that just kind of it's the truth that there is only just weakness and frailty in my heart, especially when problems are arising. When I want to turn to things that maybe I would have turned to in the past, camp it sets you up to make a decision to do better, even when it's tough. And you learn first and foremost that you have to rely on God. That is the biggest thing that I've learned. And it's starting your day, that's in the midst of the day, even when you don't want to, when your pride is the only thing you can feel. It is just handing that to God and realizing that there is so much more in store for you when you submit and when you don't seat yourself on the throne of your heart, but instead you place the Lord there. Coming to camp it's had a huge impact for me. Chief's right. There's definitely a little bit of craziness, but the more I've been there, the more I've been with these guys, the more I've seen what we do together. You're forced to confront your problems, and then when you succeed with that, you start to realize that it's kind of crazy when people decide to run away from their problems because they're piling up all the stress, the tension, the failure, and then they have no one to turn to. And so at camp, it just forces you to confront what's been there the whole time, and then you have to come up with the answer for it. But the good news that we have is the fact that our answer is the gospel. And so there is such a blessing in that is what we teach at camp, and it is what we're constantly reminded of. You have so much support at camp, and it's face-to-face. In the world we live in today, especially in kind of modern America, it is not like that anymore, not often. But at camp, that is not our preferred method of communication, but it really is our only method. Just like we come face-to-face with our problems, the way you act in your group, you don't have to look too far to find out what kind of impact you're having. You just have to look across the gather up and see the faces of your guys. That applies to each of these young boys, and it also applies to me as chief. Even though I'm placed in a position of authority over these guys, the sooner that I can commit to just being part of the group and letting righteousness lead our group, the better it's going to go for everyone. We're not given authority to wield, but rather we're given authority to just lead by example, and live out what we're talking about. And so that has had me, take a big serving of humble pie more often than I would have chosen to beforehand. But yeah, again, camp is a blessing. It's a decision that you have to make not just the day you come, but every day that you're waking up in the morning. And even on the time that you're not in camp, it is still our responsibility as chiefs to set ourselves up for the next time. Otherwise, you're not doing the job all the way. And when you really commit, and you kind of feel it in moments, but when you really commit, it doesn't even feel like a job anymore. You're just in the woods, hanging out with these guys, committing to your plans and being successful, one way or another. Yeah, it feels good to build a tent. It feels good to play some games, go on trips. But when we have problems, we say at camp, problems are good for one thing, and that one thing is being solved. And so even when we're in the midst of a struggle and we're not doing what we had committed to do that morning, there's still something for us there. And it has to do with the kind of perspective that we carry into those problems. If all we think is that our day is sunk and someone's just got a bad attitude and we have to deal with it, we're missing out on so much. But it's in those problems that each of these other guys get to put in and work on their goals and eventually prove that they have the mettle, the stuff that we've been asking them to have so they can rejoin their families and then go back and solve their problems at home as well. Yeah. And I've come to realize that I didn't just come to help these guys. I came to camp so that I could help myself. Yeah. And that's harder than I thought it'd be. It's easy to say, harder to do. But yeah, I highly recommend it for someone who's young, who's a little crazy, who's on fire for the Lord, but knows that they don't have all the answers. Camp's got some answers for them because God has all the answers for them. But yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, Chief Zach, for leading that. And Chief Zach, we're happy to have you at camp, and we hope that you stay for a long time. Thank y'all for having us. I think we've had a pretty good time sharing with y'all, and I hope we did a good job of giving you guys an understanding of what we do at camp. I know it's a little different, and if you guys are still curious, talk to your pastor, Pastor Ben. We would love to get you guys out to camp. We can put you to work. We could share a meal with you. We could just have fellowship together and eat in our chuck wagon. It doesn't matter. We could give you guys a tour of the campsite. We try to do our best to share what camp is, but you can't really catch the spirit until you're on the property. That's when it really starts to make sense. So at any point in time, if you guys are interested, you guys can call the camp office and we can get you involved. But it really was a pleasure to be here this morning. We've had a great time. We're going to sing one more song, then we will... Are we over time? Are we okay? Sounds good. We'll sing one more song, and then we're done after that, and we'll turn it over to you.
Can nobody love me like Jesus? Can nobody love me like the Lord of the night? Can nobody love me like Jesus? He's my friend. Well, not my mother, not my father, not my mother, not my father, not my sister, not my brother, not my sister, not my brother, not my dog and not my cat, yeah, not my dog and not my cat, yeah. Can nobody love me like that? Can nobody love me like that? Can nobody love me like Jesus? Can nobody love me like the Lord in the night? Can nobody love me like Jesus? He's my friend. Well, not my house and not my car, not my house and not my car, not no Hollywood movie star, not no Hollywood movie star, and anyone who thinks they're fat, anyone who thinks they're fat, can't nobody love me like that. Can't nobody love me like that. Can't nobody love me like Jesus. Can't nobody love me like the Lord of the night. Can't nobody love me like Jesus. He's my friend. Sing again. He's my friend. He's my friend.